part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Welcome back, everybody, to Podcast 616, the official podcast of Earth 616. I am your host, Damon Royster, cackling like a male witch because we have finally done it. We have reached the conclusion, the end of the road, one might say, of this podcast. This podcast will be closing its doors, and, I didn't want to go out on a Batman episode. That'd be weird for a Marvel podcast, so luckily, a little witch I know named Agatha Harkness had a TV series. So today we are going to be wrapping up Podcast 616 by talking about the Disney Plus series and Marvel Studios series, Agatha All Along, aka Which is Which. Agatha All Along. I had a great time watching this show week to week. And a little story. I was listening to another podcast, the NPR Pop Culture Happy Hour, and they were covering Agatha All Along. And they were like throwing out theories of where they think it was going because it came out right before the finale aired. And one panelist was like, "Oh, what do you think of this theory that it was all in Billy's head and he like made up the road just like Wanda did in WandaVision?" And I heard that and I thought, that would make me mad. I would be really upset if that was the case because then it would feel like nothing was real and that nothing mattered. And, these women, these flesh and blood women died for nothing and died in the fantasy of a child. And I was really upset if that's where the show would end. Cut to now, and that's the world I live in. That is what happened. It was all Billy's imagination or magical manipulation. I'm doing better now. Apologies to friends who I may have talked to after the airing of the finale. I did scream at some. And you know what? I think we're better friends for it. But I will say, and I was saying this to one of my guests before we started recording, that I loved every episode until the finale. So if I loved every episode until the finale, what does that mean when the finale affects every episode that came before? I believe I love this show, but I also have such a thorn in my side about it. But I'm seeing reviews and people are calling this the best Marvel thing ever, and it's like revitalizing Marvel. So I think I'm going to have to keep my opinions to myself and keep it a secret. Much like Agatha with The Witch's Road, I'm going to lie and say that I really liked it, which I guess I do. And we'll talk about it. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing here today. We'll talk about it. We'll talk through it. My guests are really my therapist today on this Marvel journey. And, it's a lot of feelings. We're ending the podcast. We're ending a series of television. And Agatha's a fucking ghost. What are you going to do? Well, I can't do this alone. I can't do this alone. And I never have been able to do it alone. So I am gathering my guests. Listeners, we had an idea with this podcast. It would be a gathering of an expert and a newbie to talk about Marvel content with me. Somehow, some way, we have come back to that feeling. And I think I have my original expert is here. This, my first guest, they were my original expert, the first guest on this podcast when we talked about WandaVision. They are a former hot dog connoisseur. Update if you listen to the Batman versus Superman episode. Former hot dog connoisseur. They have now rebranded and they are a ham burglar connoisseur, I assume. Please welcome to your ears the delightful, all the way from Chicago, Issac Snyder.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So happy to be here one final time in the 616 house.
Really? Well, and welcome to the house. So hamburgers are more your thing now?
Yeah, the hot dogs were fun for like a little bit, all of what, 2 weeks? I think that's when we recorded the last episode 2 weeks
That feels
ago.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I am now more into the hamburgers, specifically stealing them. I really like snatching hamburgers from people.
And we'd love to see you snatch. Excellent. Thank you, Issac. But also, listeners, we also have to have a newbie on the podcast. And this was not our first newbie who I have today, but I think this was the most newbie-ish of newbies I could have ever noobed. This guest, I don't think had ever watched a Marvel, or they had watched Marvel, but I don't think they've ever discussed Marvel quite to the level that they have in the past, except for on this podcast. She has braved What If Season 2, The New Mutants, and Moon Knight. Remember Moon Knight, everybody? We did do that. And here, finally, to talk about something that she actually likes, I have a guest who has a show here in Los Angeles the fourth Sunday of every month at Nico's, my favorite wine bar. The show is called The Nonfiction Show, and you can follow that show at the_nonfiction show. Please welcome to your ears, lover of glasses and witches. Please welcome Katie Visser. Woo!
You very much. All of that is extremely accurate, both glasses and witches. Damon, I guess it is 4 times now. In my 4 times on this show, I have never, ever been more invested or prepared than I am in this moment.
Yes. You've taken notes, I believe, like throughout your watching.
Yes, not to the extent that I did for What If, because for What If I was taking notes just to keep my head above water. I was overwhelmed by that show, but because being a Marvel newbie, but
Did you say marble?
I did say Marvel newbie. But for this one, I had thoughts throughout. I didn't take notes. It's stored. It's in here.
It's locked in. Excellent. I mean, like, let's dive in. We're gonna go witch by witch, trial by trial. So let's start with the titular Agatha. I want to go back to Isaac Snyder. So last we spoke about this side of the Marvel verse. Talk to me about Agatha. Where did we leave her, and where did you leave with your feelings towards her?
Absolutely. So, I mean, I believe that the last time we saw Agatha was definitely going to be like WandaVision. And she had been trapped in a spell by Wanda, where she was just like reliving, or like she was like in her own reality, which is how like the show opens, where it's essentially a very terrible parody of what was it, Mayor of Easttown?
Mayor of Easttown. Yeah,
Yeah,
she was
yeah.
Agatha of Westview.
Agatha of Westview. So goofy, so silly. Catherine Hahn's accent in that though was like she was trying so hard.
Oh, fantastic! Just a headline cross top. Catherine Hahn, fantastic actress. Um,
Absolutely.
no one else could have made this work like she did. I think Katie, kind of a fan of Catherine Hahn, I want to say, right?
I liked her, and now I love her. I really loved her in this show. I did like her before. I was never. Let's just get into it. Let me be very real. I was never attracted to her until now.
Absolutely.
I see. I see.
That's the crux of the matter.
Fascinating. What is it about her? What is it about her that makes you like glom on to the Hahn?
I really liked her face. I think she did a lot of face acting in this show. A lot of like tiny little choices were happening that I was really all about.
Yeah,
Although
yeah.
I know, and I love that you called it, I don't know if you guys just said cheesy or what, or like silly maybe about the whole Mayor of Easttown thing in the beginning. And my feeling, what, because again, not a constant Marvel watcher, and a lot of holes in my repertoire, but so I'm kind of always watching these things as a one-off. Even though with this, I did watch all of WandaVision, and I really liked WandaVision too. But I that terrible parody part in the first episode, I was just like, go, leave me here. I'll be here. Stay. I must stay. I loved it so much. I loved
Yeah.
her so much. I mean, and yeah, sure, I can understand why you might call this silly, but like I was so into it.
Yeah.
Oh, same. I loved the just to go over this moment, we won't do a deep dive into every episode, but like I love like essentially the body she found was Wanda's body. Like that was the person, and like it was because of that death that Agatha was like waking up from the spell slowly but surely.
And she has the line, she left me here with only appliances. She left me with appliances, which I love.
And that little bunny, did we get eyes on that bunny?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Cute bunny.
Cute bunny. Producer Michael isn't here today, but producer Michael, find me that bunny. We need to find that bunny for an interview. Well, okay, so Agatha wakes up and she wants her power back. And oh, this is where it's hard. Do y'all mind if we like touch the end before we go back to the beginning?
I would love it.
Of
Much
course,
like
yeah.
much like a road, a circular road. Um, so she wakes up, and now that we have seen the series, we know that the plan was she was going to collect witch. She didn't have her powers anymore, so she was going to collect witches with the illusion of the witch's road, kind of. But she was also told about the witch's road. She was reminded of it by the teen, but whatever, fine. This is what she does. So she starts collecting witches. how do we feel about this? That like in the end, Agatha all along was just gonna, off the coven right in episode one.
I mean, that's kind of crazy, right? Like, what I kind of love about Catherine Hahn and what I love about Agatha in general is that she's kind of like a con lady, you know? Like, she
Yeah,
really is like all about the con. She's all about the heist. She's all about the like, how can I deceive the people that are around me? Which makes sense for like an illusionist or like a magician or something like that, sleight of hand sort of stuff. It's
it's
very
true.
fitting for her character. But to look at like the history of what she was doing to all these witches, I was like, whoa, like you're taking their power, you are essentially killing them. That's kind of crazy to the point of where it's like she's not a hero by any means. She's
Not at
not like a
all.
superhero,
Mm-mm.
but she's something. She's like an entity of possibly evil, but also like still good. It's confusing. I love it.
Yeah. Katie, what were you gonna
I
say?
I actually found that by the end I really liked that. They really went very hard with and made big swings with how like actually pretty evil she was. I kind of like
Yeah,
she was very complex. It was not a simple like good or evil situation, and I kind of liked that better.
I would agree. I at one point during my rage call, with one of my friends about this show, I think I kind of rationalized like, well, this is the spooky Halloween show, not the Christmas feel good family show. So like, maybe I should be leaving with a little bit of like acid in my taste buds from this. Because I do like that this wasn't like Cruella or one of these like villain origin story shows or movies where like you learn like, oh, they were bad, but actually they're kind of good. Like we came in knowing she was a villain and we left, oh, she's villainous. Like she's not cuddly in any kind of way. We learned about her son, Nicholas Scratch, but even that was just kind of like an accidental thing that happened to her that softened her a bit, but she was still killing
And
witches with
even
him.
I would say too, even in the moments when she's being softened and she has like human moments, she is to the core selfish and she's in it for selfish reasons the whole time. So
Yeah.
like there's not a lot to redeem her there. It is very more by the end it's like, oh, it's purely villainous like you said, because even when she has human moments, she's like always looking out for number one. Like.
Truly.
Seriously. Yeah. Thank you, Kate. That's exactly what I was going to say. Like, because I think Isaac was saying, like, is she just evil incarnate or whatever? I think it's just selfishness. Like, I think that's not to get on my soapbox here, but fuck it, it's my podcast. I think that's what evil is. It's a complete lack of care for anyone else. It's just self-preservation only. I think is like not the only way to be defined as evil, but I think that's a path to it. To not care for other human beings.
Certainly.
Vote this election.
Please vote.
This will
Please,
be
yeah, please
this will
vote.
this will come out after the election. So if you're listening to this, you already know how it turned out.
I don't
Which
like
was
that time travel.
yeah.
Scary.
um, I'll say this. So okay, Agatha wakes up from the spell, but there's somebody there. There's someone new that we're meeting, but Agatha's not meeting them. KT Visser. Can you talk to me about the character of Rio? And
I was gonna say reporting for duty. I'm here.
talk me through, and the same thing I did with Isaac, like who is Rio and also who is Rio to you?
Why do you ask me, Damon? I wonder. Um
Hmm.
so okay, so well, and also like, Rio's very different character at the beginning of the show than at the end. We know way different things about her at the end.
True,
So
true. I am using her nickname, I assume.
and once again, right, and once again, exactly, we're not aren't even using her real name right now, but
Mhm.
once again, I will go back to the mayor of Easttown of it all and say, leave me with them. I want to be here in this world. Um, okay, so I'm sure everybody listening knows this. We're talking about Aubrey Plaza. I've always loved Aubrey Plaza. It's simple. It's a very simple love. and
A simple love.
um, and in I'll share Catherine Hahn's sentiments when she says later on in the show, I like a bad boy,
Hmm.
and that's what we're dealing with here. And But so actually Rio first comes in the form of a federal agent that Catherine Hahn very much does not like. And this is what I'm talking about with the face acting. Her discomfort when Aubrey Plaza walks in the room is so good. I love how she can't sit still and she's all antsy, and I love it. I will say I don't know if there's gonna be any dissent to this opinion, but I think that they had fantastic chemistry the entire time.
100%. Absolutely.
Agree. I have never seen a Marvel product that was so overtly homosexual right from the jump. I'm like,
so I've been waiting to talk about this. This show was so queer coded the entire time, down to the fact that later on, which we'll talk about the end later, in a very after an extremely crucial moment, maybe the crucial moment of the show, in the end, Billy drives away and the camera is focused on the fact that the back of the car, and he is driving a Subaru Forester. And that's how queer coded this show is.
only you, Katie, would only you would find that.
I mean, it's all the details. They're there. They're all.
Oh my God. Yes, there was a Subaru in Agatha All Along. All along.
All along.
It was Subaru all along.
Gorge.
Well, I want to go. We are blessed with a comic book expert on this episode, so I want to go to Isaac Snyder. Had you heard of that Death was a character in the Marvel comics?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really wild that we got Death as like a MCU character, because Death is most commonly associated with the character of Thanos, who, if listeners, Thanos tries to court Death. That's like his whole thing, is like he is in love with Death, and Death is actually the one that like tells him like you should wipe out half the universe, the universe's population, and do that. And so he does that action to court Death. Like, he, in the comic books, in Infinity War, that is what he was aiming for. So it's so cool to see it now. I mean, it is sad to see it like 6 years post Endgame and Infinity War, because like, could you imagine Aubrey Plaza being in Infinity War, hanging out with like Josh Brolin and like being like, oh, like, oh, you love me. Like, I think that would be so exciting and so cool.
Agreed.
But I am really happy that it is actually like finally here in the Marvel universe, that Death is here.
Oh yeah, and I think I hear you. I had that thought as well, because I read that like, oh, Thanos like had like a thing for Death, and it would have been cool for Aubrey Plaza. But I also love the undeniable same-sexness that we get with Catherine Hahn, because then we have to do like, I just see myself fighting with my brother. Like, well, yeah, she liked him and her. Like, it's two things, so
True.
she's on the spectrum. But this is just like, she liked the ladies. Okay, we are moving along. I'm realizing there's so much things in this show, but we're doing good. We're doing good. Okay, if I said down the road, do you guys know where I'm going?
Absolutely.
The Witch's Road, as they say in Italy.
Is it stuck in everybody else's heads now too? It's like in my head.
I can't stop singing it. I literally have not stopped singing it. I'll just be walking through the halls of my apartment, just being like, down the road. It's so good. It's so good.
Okay, real quick, round robin. Which version of Down the Road do you prefer? There's the chant one, and then there's the one Alice's mom did in the 70s. The more like power ballady.
100% power ballad all the way. I love the power, because I always love a power ballad, and this is a good one. I love, and when they perform it all, I love it. I love it.
I really do like the chant one. I'm a big fan of the chant one. The first one I really, really loved. The second version of the song, I was like, I love this too. It's still super great. But that first version, just like hearing all of them, also like the scene in general was just so exciting to like watch them all doing it, and have like Deborah Jo Rump in the back just like freaking out the whole time.
Was I supposed to learn this song?
Give it up, Deborah Jo Rump. Oh my God.
Love her. Love her.
Love her. Or as I call her, victim number one.
Wait,
Sorry. Sorry to keep that, thread going.
I think
Which
that's the
also-
only death that I really was like, that didn't need to happen. You
Yeah,
didn't need to do that. Like,
Like her whole family, like her husband already died in WandaVision, and she died all along.
And just to swing way to the end too for a second about her, I really thoroughly enjoyed and laughed out loud when Billy in the end is like, and what about Mrs. I don't even remember Mrs. whatever her name is.
Yeah, Hearts.
Davis, Hart.
Well,
Davis?
her real name is Davis, but her WandaVision name was Hearts.
Oh yeah, Mrs. Hart's, and he goes, and Mrs. Hart's, and Agatha just goes, who? Like, it does not remember. It's
And
so
like,
good.
and then she's like, "Oh, the garden lady." Yes. Well, we go down the Witch's Road, which, I mean, I'm still going to talk about it, even though it was not real. They have to go through these trials. I love this setup. I think it's a beautiful setup for a television series. It's the best setup a Marvel series has ever had. Because so far, with the exception of WandaVision, even WandaVision a little bit, it always felt like these were 2-hour movies that they were stretching into like 6 or 8 episodes. Thank God we don't even have to talk about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I never did that TV show as an episode, but like that was definitely, I was like, oh, this is just Captain America 4, and you're just like stretching it out. But this is just such a great way to create a story engine for a television show of like, okay, we need to collect these witches and they need to go through trials to get the thing that they want, to get their shiny prize, whatever MacGuffin they're looking for. So we assemble our witches, and I loved how each trial was associated with a specific witch. And I want to start with trial number 1, which highlighted 4-season SNL alum queen herself, Zashir Zameda, as Jennifer Kale. Katie Visser, what did you think of this potions test? Were you feeling a Housewives vibe in this first trial when they're like in like this little wine tasting house?
Housewives mixed with like a Nancy Meyers film. Like they're like
Mhm.
beachy cottage core vibes, like that
The
kind of stuff.
kitchen. Mhm.
Yeah. And boy, did I felt it to be very fulfilling how they destroyed that kitchen. That kitchen was ruined. And it was very cool in a very cool way. I wanted to note one of my favorite things related to this trial, but also to the road in general. I watched a little featurette behind the scenes thing on the show, and they were talking about how all of the effects in this show were done practically, which is unusual. And I mean, again, I'm not a Marvel head, and I will defer to the two of you if this is, you can talk about whether this is cool or not, but I found it to be really cool. Resident newbie thinks it was very cool that it was all done practically, and like that they could actually physically, the actors were walking through and like actually interacting with this environment, which I thought was really awesome. It felt like it was like Shakespeare in the Round or something, like a play feeling to me,
Definitely.
which
Yeah.
so
Oh God,
exactly about the road in general. Yeah.
I can't imagine any Marvel fan to be like, no, more green screen. Don't be in a
No.
place.
Yeah, the practical effects of this show really like solidified it being good, in my opinion. Because yeah, like practical effects are so like few and far between now in like film and in television. Like everyone just thinks that I guess it might be more cost effective to use CGI in some instances,
Yeah.
but it's great. It was so pretty. It looked so good.
So good. And so like, I mean, God, watching this week to week in, end of September into October was just like, this is exactly the mood and vibe I want to feel for spooky season, especially for those of us in California where, maybe we're not getting that seasonal leaf change outside. It's nice to have it on my TV.
Oh, I'm sorry, you guys don't have leaves?
it's
Listener, Isaac Snyder is taking the smuggest of sips.
I'm sorry.
it really sucks. We have to have I call it the season of autumn pretending here. We have to have the season of pretending where I like would go at the height of the heat, because September and October are very hot. I like to put my AC on, close everything up, burn all my fall candles, I could put a sweater on, a scarf on, whatever, like pretend, just fully pretend it's fall. And this show was perfect for that. So,
Definitely.
Totally. Isaac, talk to me. Oh, Katie,
I don't think I ever answered your question about the first trial.
yeah, and I was returning to that. So please. Any Jennifer Kale thoughts, specifically our potions witch?
I love a potion. I love the witchiness of this show, and that in some ways that was like one of the most like authentically, traditionally witchy parts of it, that she did the potions, which is great.
Oh yeah.
And another shout out to Catherine Hahn's tiny acting choices when she goes into the shop that Jennifer runs and is making fun of everything. And when she takes essentially if we're all familiar with it, Gwyneth Paltrow made these popular, a yoni egg from the shop, and turns over, she turns across her shoulder to Sashir's character and goes, "You'll know where to find it." And I died. I love it so much. Anyway.
Oh my God.
That's my takeaway.
It's so fun. I love that scene. And I was really blown away by Zeshir. Like I was really like solo championing her when she was on SNL. And I was like, man, they're just not putting her in enough stuff. She was in like a Scandal parody that I thought was really funny, the TV show Scandal. And so it was nice to see her being able to stretch her acting muscles a bit. Because Jennifer Kale, some may say the only survivor of the Witch's Road. Some may say she's a legend. But we learn, just to kind of, I don't know if we'll get to it at the end, but just to wrap up her character, she survives because she finds out the person who bound her powers turns out Agatha all along. She did it for extra, we should say, banknotes in the 1920s. So they were able to resolve that on the road. So she got out. She flew away, like all witches do when they leave Westview. They look to the western skies and fly away. All right. So we have this trial. Everyone gets poisoned with wine, and then they fix it, but they can't save poor Sharon Davis, aka Mrs. Hart. She dead. But we press on, and we go to our next trial, which is a little musical. Isaac Snyder, are you a fan of music?
Yes, as any sane human might be. I do enjoy an occasional tune, an occasional melody here and there. I'm a fan. Wait,
Here
I
and
did
there.
just want to say one thing about this previous trial that we were on. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but the faces when they made the whole like plastic surgery faces, like just
Yes.
like the
Yeah.
cushion faces, I loved it. I thought that was probably one of the funniest things that Marvel has ever done. I thought that it was beautiful, it was perfect, and I think that plastic surgery like that should be in the media more.
Speak truth to power.
That's my truth.
That's her truth. Heard chef. 70s rocker band. Miss Alice. I liked Alice. I feel the most sadness for Alice, even though, Sharon wasn't supposed to be on the road, but I don't know, it's like what happened to Alice is just like such a gut punch of like, she has this family curse, she breaks it, she does one thing, and she like protects somebody with her powers, and then that's it. And then she dies.
I missed Alice immediately. I was like, no, I want you in this show. I missed her immediately.
No.
Yeah, it was a
Katie,
bummer that she was gone.
agreed. I was gonna say, Katie, talk to me about Alice. What did she provide for the show?
I liked her character a lot, and I liked that, like, in Westview, she was the cop and whatever, and like all of that, and like so like she was this like protection witch role in like all these different ways, like, and just like in all these different things. She also had just like really like she had dry humor. She provided dry humor a lot of the time too, I felt like.
Yeah.
For the short time that we had her with us. And yeah, it was one of those things where you knew that this was going to be, because that is the story engine, you knew people were going to be dropping off, but I was always like, no, I didn't like it.
I know it's like, yeah, people will die, but just not that one or that one or that one.
Right.
Because I love them all. I thought they were really great. I want to talk about covens. I feel like we are a coven today on this podcast. Do you guys think this is an idea I had? Do you think so? Every time they went to a trial, they were like, they costume changes. It felt like they were different ways women gather, and that could be viewed as a coven, like a wine club, a girl group rock band, a slumber party, and then just witches in a tower. Like they were all different ways women could gather throughout the decades and years.
Love
Am I
that.
my wild out of
Mhm.
pocket? Does that resonate with anyone?
No, I
Yeah.
think that's lovely, and I think that's totally valid. I think that the show in general was very it was just a good representation for women. And I thought that it was really cool that the show was also like one of Marvel's first like female, like all female driven casts.
Yeah.
Which I thought was just like really freaking awesome because, you know, we have gotten a little bit more in phase 4 and now phase 5. I can't believe we're in phase 5 of
We
the
are in phase 5.
MCU.
Man.
But for this show specifically, it was so cool. And anything with like witches, I'll be here for it. Like I love witches. I literally have the witches Bible just like sitting on my bookshelf, like right over there. Like I love it.
Oh, we love that. The
I,
Darkhold.
It is the dark hold, yes. It is.
And
I
Katie, what were you gonna say?
am always a fan of witches as well. I just actually it kind of timed out with me my watch of this show, which timed out similarly to my reading Alice Hoffman books. I don't know if anybody knows who Alice Hoffman is, but she was the writer of the novel series that Practical Magic, the cult film classic, is based on.
Oh,
And
Wow.
Practical Magic can be kind of like it's a little bit of a silly movie, but the books are not. They're like really real witchy stuff and like beautifully written. So if you're looking for more witch content, Alice Hoffman's books are great. But I love that. And Damon, I love this concept of it being like different ways that women gather and discuss and like kind of like have power coming out of the group, like the
yeah.
groups. I love that.
Yes. It is powerful when women come together. It is powerful when magic is done, but it's also powerful to take a break. Podcast 616, we're gonna take a break. And when we come back, can you believe it? We have more to discuss. We're gonna talk about LILIA and Billy, my Wiccan. Oh, my little gay boy. All right, so come back to Podcast 616. Stay listening to Podcast 616. We'll be right back. This is the last one. Why would you turn it off now, you moron? And I'm sorry, I love you. Okay, we'll be right back. Bye.
Part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
What's up, everybody? Chase Smith here from the Chase Smith Podcast and Cavs on the Break NBA Podcast.
And I'm JD, host of the Hyman Podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network, and we are super excited to bring you a brand new show starting next Tuesday, the Fanfare Podcast.
The Fanfare Podcast is all about your favorite movies and our favorite movies and the best moments in cinema. To help guide our discussion, each episode will feature one classic, and we will grade this movie using a report card-like scale A through F. We're going to be grading categories like acting, directing, cinematography, the score, and even the movie poster itself.
And when we're not featuring a movie report card, we'll be sharing our movie rankings, franchise deep dives, actor and director interviews, and everything in between. Movies have been a major part of our lives, and we cannot wait to share our thoughts with you.
Our premiere episode will drop Tuesday, June 27th, and JD and I will be reviewing Raiders of the Lost Ark in preparation of the release of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny on June 30th, the 5th installment of the franchise.
Join us on the Fanfare Podcast, available on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcast.
And we're back. Okay, listeners to this podcast, I just pulled a card from my tarot deck, and I got the Tower, and it's thankfully not reversed, so we're all right side up. Isaac Snyder, the cards are telling me that I should go to you next to talk about the character of Lilia.
Oh yes, please, please. I'm not kidding you. Her episode was the best episode, in my opinion. Like it was so well written. Her interjections that she had throughout the series, where you just kind of were like, okay, she's a little goofy, all actually meaning something. And the idea of like time, being able to like jump through time in these different moments, and then for her to go back to like her first lesson with what I would assume is like her I don't want to say mother. I don't know if it was her mother, but it was like an elder witch of sorts.
Okay, I was gonna say mother, but
Were you
right.
gonna say mother? I can't tell.
I was like,
It almost had like a kind of a convent feel to it, where it was like mother superior kind of deal.
Yeah.
totally, yeah.
Like a
Climb every
matriarchal leader of sorts.
Climb every mountain.
But it was just so cool for her to like go back and like have those conversations with her. Cause like, can you imagine as an adult, like going back to like one of your teachers as an adult and like being able to talk with them about the things that were like the most important lessons that you've ever learned in your life and like
Yeah.
just to like have a moment to like also say thank you. Like that's it was just it was so beautiful. And I could have cried in that episode. I don't think I did cry, but I could have cried in that episode.
You would be well within your right. It was beautiful. Like I love like the last moment is her as a kid, and this Mother Superior character is like, "All right, let's begin," and it's like after it just like continues just the cycle. I love time. I've slowly but surely been dropping Doctor Who references in this show throughout the years, so I love a wibbly wobbly timey wimey episode, and God, it was just great. And yeah, like all of her outbursts. Like I knew, like I was like, okay, she's the divination witch. She's having premonitions. So I was like, okay, those are probably going to pay off. But I had no idea they were all going to pay off in the same episode. Blew my mind. Um, Katie Visser, have you heard of Pattie LuPone?
Oh yes, quite. I love Patty. I am a huge Sondheim head. I love Stephen Sondheim's musicals so much because he's truly like one of the best lyricists that has ever been. And Patty LuPone knows her way around a Sondheim show. She's incredible in them. So
Nice.
I loved her from that. They did a Stephen Sondheim birthday concert, like I don't know, probably like 20 years ago now. It was a long time ago, maybe like 10 to 15 years ago. And
Mhm.
Patty LuPone was in that concert, and I watch the YouTube clips of that concert over and over all the time. I love her. And I thought it was very funny to see her in this context. It was like she was a little fish out of water in this context.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's such a good point. It's so interesting to see this larger than life actress play just like the meek older woman. But oh my God.
She held her own though as
Oh,
like
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
Marvel actress. Like there were lines that she was saying where I like they would talk about things in like the greater Marvel universe, like the Darkhold and stuff like that. And I
Mhm.
kind of have these moments where I just like lean in a little bit and I'd be like, "So, Patty LuPone, how are you going to say this line? Like
Yeah.
how are you going to say it?" And then she would
Talking about
do
my
it.
Darkhold.
Exactly. And then she would do it. And it was just like, oh my God, like you really are like one of the most talented performers
Mhm.
around like today. Like you are just so talented.
But
So good.
also so Lapone. Of course.
So
Of
LaPound.
course. She comes into this long established franchise thing and she's like, oh, Marvel, I guess I'll do that.
Yeah.
And just like casually delivers the best episode of the season, of the series, of all Marvel television. And she's like, and I'm just gonna say, I'm gonna say it here. Best supporting actress in a miniseries Emmy for Patty LuPone. There.
Oh.
Or at least a nomination. At least a nomination.
I could see a nomination for sure. 100%.
I don't know what's gonna happen.
There's a tiny moment in the beginning where she says, when Agatha and Teen go to see her at her house, she says, "I didn't read your future, I read your reputation." And the way she says it, I get chills every time I think about that. I love it so much. I mean, there's so many great lines of hers in this, and that's a tiny one, but I have thought about it ever since. I love when she says, "I read your reputation," which is
Oh my
really
God.
cool. Be like, no,
I
I'm just seeing your shenanigans as a person right now. Like,
Oh my, can I say my favorite Patty LuPone line from the show? It was when she's in the underground caves with Jen, and Jen sees the exit of the subway and Patty's like, I'm going this way and I want you to come with me. And Jen's like, why? And Patty's just like, you're my sister in the craft. God.
yeah.
That was beautiful.
And both
Also,
people feel it too when Sashir loses Patty. You feel it. Like
oh,
she's
also an epic death. Like that
Truly.
was probably one of the best deaths in Marvel I think I've ever
Yeah.
seen. I don't know what is up with Marvel and just like if they are killing women, like they're gonna throw them from really high areas for whatever reason. That seems to be a theme in Marvel.
Marissa
Um,
Tomei,
Marissa Tomei,
Angela Bassett. Well, I guess Angela Bassett
Scarlett
drowned.
Johansson,
Scarlett Johansson. Yeah.
Zoe Saldana, like all of them get thrown from massive things. It's like we won't stab women, but we will throw them off of high ledges.
We will
Like
drop them.
which we will drop them. And but hers was probably the best. I
Yeah.
mean, in that dress and the slow-mo also taking out the entire Salem 7 while she was doing it at the same time. Like, we're talking tens across the board here. That was gorgeous.
When you complete a trial, as I just did, oh my God, slay. Shout out to, there's no time for the Salem 7 today, unfortunately, but shout out to them. I mean, we could do it now. I loved everything about them. They're all scary and all
really
dancers.
scary.
At least I believe them to be. I've seen like there was like someone did they paired up the shots of the Salem 7 in costume and them out of costume, and they're all like gorgeous, beautiful women that I think they're dancers, just to like contort their bodies in such a way.
So cool.
So Lilia, one of her last gigs was she worked a bar mitzvah for a young boy named William Kaplan. Oh boy, Katie Visser, my newbie, my number one newbie. Can you, for one final time, can you explain what happened to William Kaplan and how did Billy come to be?
Right. And this is not Heartstoppers that we're talking about, right?
Mm,
I had to get that in there. Because I just feel like I know their type, these Heartstopper fans, and they're gonna come to Marvel for this show because of that. So
oh, I feel like that's most of the fan base.
yeah,
100%.
it's them and me being here for Aubrey Plaza. That's what we've got. We're working with right now.
Yes, yes.
The gays are covered. We're covered. Like,
gays are covered right now. Gays are totally covered.
Top to bottom.
From what I gather, what happened to William Kaplan and to Billy was that William was in a car accident after his bar mitzvah, and Billy was needing they call it, I think in the show a couple times, a place to, or Agatha calls it a place to be. He was a place to be, aka a body to be his new form, his new host. And this boy who died in the car accident became after all of the WandaVision, I'll just call it all the WandaVision shenanigans. Billy took over this body, and that is how he is in this form here. What else? Anything?
I mean, we'll go to our Isaac Snyder. Do you approve?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what it was in the comic books. I mean, we didn't have like the WandaVision story in the comic books, but they were in fact, Billy and Tommy were both imagined and created by the Scarlet Witch, although they were not necessarily real. And so the implications of that, like major effects throughout the Marvel comics for years, like it.
Oh yeah.
So it was really exciting to see it here now. Kind of crazy that we got like a live action Billy Wiccan. I always wanted us to get there in the MCU.
Yeah.
But I never knew if it was actually like going to happen or if WandaVision was going to be like our only introduction to that character. And then it was going to be very brief.
I want to say, I just want to give a shout out. Also, again, last episode highlighting previous episodes we've done, but like I'm really happy this year with like the Marvel Studios being willing to do complex character introductions that are true to the comics. I'm thinking back to X-Men 97 with, the Goblin Queen, and like Cable is the child of Scott Summers and Jean Grey's clone. Like we're doing, like they're finally putting out those, like, because I would read these character backstories on Wikipedia. I'm like, well, they'll never put that in a movie. Like, there's no way. It's too complicated. But they're doing it, and I think that's pretty cool. That's all I want to say. Katie, you were saying?
What was it? What was I saying?
Well, you were wrapping up, Billy's origin story. But yeah, Billy Maximoff. How are you? Specifically, how did Joe Locke do? From teen to Billy.
Oh, I liked Joe Locke's performance a lot. And I think that it changed from, I feel like this show really shifted for me over time. It was a very different show at the end than it was in the beginning to me in some ways. And Joe Locke changed a lot in it, and because he got more grounded and serious. And like in the beginning, he was very cute and funny in the beginning when he was just like, "Oh, are we going to be a coven? Ooh, exciting! Like, let's be a coven. This is so exciting." And then you like I think his knowing like who he was, and again for somebody who's coming into the story somewhat fresh, even having watched WandaVision, I was like, okay, how is this all going to play out? And I actually watched, we'll get to the ending later, but I watched the last 2 episodes again because I was like needing to figure them out for myself. And when you see the earlier stuff after having watched the later stuff, it changes what you think about teen the whole time. Totally.
Yep.
So-
Yep. Yeah, it's hey, I love a gay teen with magical powers. I've never said anything different. That has always been
Period.
my position for decades. I am always in for gay teens with magic. Willow on Buffy, check. And I'm excited because I've always liked Wiccan. I didn't really know much about his backstory, but I have read a few Young Avengers comics. So like I love that he was kind of like an important gay figure on a superhero team. So very excited for him. And I'm gonna again manifesting like an Emmy for Pattie LuPone. I'm manifesting that his Heartstopper co-star becomes Hulkling. Um you
That would be so on the nose. I really hope that they don't do that.
oh you're
That would
anti
be
that.
so on the nose. I'm so anti. Don't cast Kit.
So you
What's his name? Harrington.
no, that's Game of
Oh, that's
Thrones.
different kit.
Oh,
But it's Kit something.
there's multiple kids. Kit, the American Girl doll.
Okay, so Isaac and I are on opposite sides of this issue, but that's
100%. Absolutely. We can disagree with this one.
fine.
Pointed out to me by someone that they in the comic books they do look like the Heartstopper couple. That
Oh,
they
They
do.
do. They do.
So
They
it
do,
would be
don't they?
casting that would make sense.
I mean, you can't build chemistry; it's already there. You know what? We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Isaac is staring off into the middle distance. Cannot be bothered.
I don't
Uh,
think that those two people, that Jolak and the other actor, I don't know that I would worry for their safety if that did happen, honestly.
I think that's super valid. Like, if
Yeah.
you're just gonna be cast with like your co-star for the next like 10 years, like you're gonna eventually you're gonna be like, God, like Hollywood or everyone only sees me with this person. And then you start to like question your own like independence as a person. And you're like, oh, can I get projects without this person? It's like the Meg Ryan, Tom Hanks effect,
I was
you
literally going
know,
to say that. Yeah, which has worked to great effect. So
for Tom Hanks.
you agree? So you agree? You think they're really pretty?
Right? So you agree.
Uh, but yeah, I like Joe Locke. I agree, Katie, that his character does change over the course of the show. I think it is narratively fun that he ended up doing what his mom did. Because there's clearly some resentment for the Scarlet Witch, for Wanda, of like, I'm nothing like her. I don't want to be like her. But like, you both have magical powers. You both created a whole universe without your knowledge. You killed people. Very, very interesting. And I loved the whole idea that he's just searching for a mother figure. I mean, he's searching for his brother literally, but I think subtextually he's looking for a mother figure, and he found that in Agatha all along. And I'm interested where they shake out. I'll also say I love that Billy had a huge Buffy poster in his bedroom. I wish I had the poster. It's
That
beautiful.
bedroom was everything. Honestly, they showed that bedroom and I was like, God, kids these days, they're so lucky. That's such
Is
a
it
cool bedroom.
Isaac, I know this isn't your bedroom, but the room you're in is giving a little bit of Billy Maximoff.
Oh my God, thank you. It's actually so funny. As an actor, Billy was like the one when I started reading Young Avengers, I was always like, I want to play this character so badly. And now to like finally see it, I'm like, that's okay. Like I get it. Like I'm 30, like Joe Locke's like what, 19? Like it's cool. I get
Forever
it.
19. He'll be 19 forever.
He's gonna be 19 forever. I'm gonna keep getting older. And I'm okay with that. I've accepted it. But
Good, good,
it
good.
really is just like such this character just means so much to me. I love this character so much. It's so powerful.
Oh yeah. So we escaped the Witch's Road, which was just Billy's creation, and we have this coda moment. The last episode is kind of like split in two, where like the first half we learn about Agatha's, con, which we already talked about, and then the second half is Billy coming to peace, hopefully coming to peace with that, and we get to see Agatha as a ghost. And I believe this is the way she looks is kind of like how we normally see Agatha depicted in the comics, like an older woman, a crone, if you will. I think the show gave me permission to say this word. She a crone through and through. And then they closed the Witch's Road for good. And then I love that they like had that honoring of like Sharon, Alice, and Lilia, their names on the basement floor. Hopefully, whoever sells that, hopefully, no one buys that house. Hopefully, everyone leaves Westview. Get out. Death has been to Westview, like literal death. Get
Really.
out. Get out. Um, and then they go on a mission to find Tommy. My question for my guests: do you trust Agatha? Do you think she really has Billy's best interest? Katie, I see a no
You
for me.
can't, I don't think you can trust this character ever. That you're not, I don't think we'll ever be able to trust this character completely. There will, however, what I love about her is there are always moments where she does show up for people and that like holds you in, that pulls you in, but
Mhm.
I don't consider her to be trustworthy, which that's kind of what I love. It's like, oh, anytime you feel like, oh, this is a great moment between her and Billy and like, oh, bonding and whatever, it's not safe. Like
Nah,
I should never be fully trustworthy.
not at all. And Isaac Snyder, same question.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that she has, Agatha's always going to have Agatha's best interest of heart. Like that's always going to be her motive. I do think though, what's so lovely about this show is it really is about mothers and sons, right? Like, and
Yeah.
Nicholas Scratch is like a perfect example of that. And I think that like this whole, I mean, this really was my most favorite part about the show. Like even way in the very beginning when Death Rio told Agatha he's not yours. Like
Mhm.
that when they still didn't know who Billy was quite yet because he had
Yeah.
the sigil. Like that was so sad. And then to like finally in this last episode actually get that whole like backstory of what happened with Nicholas Scratch.
Mhm.
I mean, like that really got me. That was so sad because he was supposed to go in utero and Agatha literally had to say like please like let me just have some time with him. So I think that like to tie it all back
Interesting.
to your original question, I do think that she does have her own specific motives, but I think that this is the time that she has now with Billy that she like didn't get to have with Nicholas and she's like getting that time back. And so I
Mm.
think that hopefully she moves on in a way of like helping Billy to find Tommy, but she probably still has her own interests at
I,
the front.
I agree, and everything's just lovely. But there's the thing that gives me pause is the fact that she could pick up as a ghost. She managed to pick up her own brooch and put it back on, which makes me think, oh, she's going to continue to like get more solid, get more tactile with the world in some way.
I could see it for sure. She does have a ghostly form in the comic books,
Hmm.
which has happened before. So I could see them kind of trying to stick with this. It's also probably a little bit easier to have her like as a ghost form than have her as like a full-blown character. Because now I'm like, oh, is Catherine Hahn going to show up in some future Marvel movies or some other Marvel TV shows? Because she does have a very rich history with the comic book characters. She's, the governess of the Fantastic Four. Like it's crazy.
I've read that. I've read that.
Mhm.
Last thing I want to say before our final segment, this goes to Katie Visser. Katie Visser, for all the queerness of Agatha all along, are you a little mad that we didn't get a full Agatha Rio love? Oh, she's already
I've been waiting.
already
I've been
going.
waiting.
Oh, please, the floor is yours.
I jumped on the question. Sorry.
Well,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I will say that, listen, I get it. I understand what they're doing. It was a very beautiful death moment. It was a beautiful Agatha death moment. I just have to say this. We finally get an on-screen lesbian makeout, and what happens? In the ground. They're dead. In the ground immediately.
Kiss of
We've
death.
been queer people have been saying for a long time now, thank you very much. We're very happy for the representation in film and TV and books and music, whatever. I love that there's just so much more of it than when I was like in high school and whatever. So much more of it. And yet they like us to be sad and die a lot of the time. And I hate that. And
Oh
I get
no.
it. They were like, this was actually a great like cathartic moment for the show where she chooses her making out with Rio is her choosing her fate, right? And that's a cool moment.
Yeah.
But it's very frustrating that we didn't. I mean, I know I know what this is, so I know we're gonna get a whole lot of sex, which I would have liked, but like, but I do think it was extremely frustrating for her to be like, we're together, you're gone.
Mhm. And then in the flashback, it's like after they made their deal and she has Nicholas, it's like, well, what did that deal look like?
I will say I did like that they were established very much as a couple in the show, and I think that does a lot for representation in what we're watching because it was fully established. They were caught like, and in very funny ways too, where Billy's like, so Agatha's ex is death. That makes sense for her. Like, you
Yeah,
know?
that makes a lot
And
of sense.
they were saying like ex and my love and all these that like it's established that they are a couple, which you know, we'll take every bit of representation out there, including when you're coupled up with death. Like,
Truly. Actually, pretty the line for them I always remember is like when Rio is like, she's my scar. And I'm like, man, now that I know that she's death, huge. Like Death's seen a lot. And the one that scarred Death is Agatha.
and she says nobody in history has ever been given this much special treatment as you have.
Mhm. Nobody in history has been given that much special treatment, but we're about to give some special treatment to three characters because for the last time, I mean, in recorded history, we'll probably still do it in person because I love this game. We're going to play Fuck, Marry, Kill, Agatha All Along edition. On the docket is, of course, Agatha Harkness, the star of the show. Next, we'll have Rio, Death, and finally, this was a group consensus from Issac. LILIA will be our final character. You know, she's age appropriate. So I will go first to give my guests time to think, get their answers in order. You would think I would kill Death, but that's crazy. To bring death to death is to bring life. Thank you, Doctor Who season 14 for that. I'm going to kill Agatha. I'm gonna kill Agatha. I don't like bullies. I don't like gaslighters. I don't like women. I don't like women on women violence. And Agatha does all those things. She bad. She a bad lady. And I don't want none of her. She's just gonna trick me. So I'm gonna kill Agatha. I am going oh boy. Yeah, this is where it's gonna go. I'm gonna fuck Lilia. Just basically just get a tarot reading. Like, how's this going? What's up? And then I don't know. Maybe I'll see her fall. Maybe we'll like have sex while she's falling. That could be fun. But just she'll just tell me too much about the future. I'm like, I don't want to know about the future because I know where it's all ending. It's ending with death. So I'm gonna marry death, and hopefully that'll push off my death for centuries. Because I'm courting her, and unlike Agatha or Thanos, it's gonna work out with me. I bet we're gonna be really happy together. And also, Aubrey Plaza fucking rocks, and I don't mind her personality, as weird as it is. That's how I feel. Let us go to Isaac Snyder. Please, who are your picks?
Absolutely. So I have decided that I am going to marry Lilia. And I would marry Lilia because she has lived so many different lives. She's been around for so long. I really genuinely feel like she would have really great stories. And I think we would just have a really exciting, fun life together. So I would marry Lilia.
Lovely.
I would fuck Death because Death is sexy, point blank, period. And also, like, that would be just so fun to be like, yeah, I fucked Death. Like, cool.
Get over it. Yeah.
Get over it. What are you gonna do about it? You can't. Like, I think that that would just be really
Yes.
exciting.
Mhm.
And then that means that, yeah, I would kill Agatha. And I would kill Agatha truly because even death can't take Agatha. So, like,
Yes.
I think that that would be kind of like a cool thing just to be like, yeah, what now?
Mhm.
Like, definitely not violence against women, but like, I would be like, you got it. You're gone now, witch. Like, that's exciting.
I fully support your choices. Katie Visser, our last guest. Please, who do you choose?
I'm going to kill Lilia because because she dies so well. It's going to be amazing and epic, regardless of how. Like,
That's
it's
true. That's
going to be
true.
a great death, and we're all going to be very excited to see it because she's so good at it. So I'll kill Lilia. I'm gonna fuck Agatha because I want to. That's how that.
Yeah.
Done and done.
Done and done.
Done and done. There you go.
I do agree with David's reasoning for not like she can't be trusted. Like a marriage with Agatha is a disaster waiting to happen. I do see that. I am going to, so definitely to fuck Agatha. God bless. It's gonna be wonderful. And then marry death. And because you know what you see is what you get. I don't think it's going to be like everybody knows what we're getting ourselves into here, and when it's not very very bad, it's going to be so good, like really good.
I love that we're all a little different, but also all a little same. We're a nice 3 Venn diagram together. My God, and then much like death, that's the end. This has been Podcast 616. Let me go to my guests. Could you please let people know where they could find you online, any shows you want to promote, any projects that you're working on, keeping in mind that this will air probably in 2 weeks from today.
Me?
Oh, yeah, let's go to Katie.
Thank you. You can find me on Instagram at Katie L. Visser, which is my name. And you can find my show that I produce and co-host here in Los Angeles at _nonfiction show. We are a variety hour that features comedians, storytellers, live music every month. We've showcased different local LA musicians. It's the nonfiction show because everybody has to be themselves on stage and tell true stories. So come check us out at Nico's Wines and Atwater for Sundays. And yeah, thank you very much. I love you, Podcast 616. This has been so fun.
We love you too. And we love the nonfiction show. Fantastic show. Isaac Snyder, any plugs from you?
Absolutely. So you can find me on TikTok at IDSny. You can find me on Twitter at Isaac D. Snyder. You can also find me at Instagram at Ike D. Snyder. And then be on the lookout for a Twitch because I'm thinking I might start doing some streaming and some gaming and some twitching. I don't know if that's what people do. Twitching. Oh, God.
Well, I think they do it. I don't know if they call it that, but they do it.
I don't think they do call it twitching, but I'm going to be a Twitcher. Anyway, but yes, that is where you can find me. And also, I just want to take a moment to say congratulations, Damon, for this podcast, because truly this podcast has been an absolutely wonderful experience to be a part of every single time. And I'm so proud of you for getting this podcast up and running and doing it and for having some great episodes. So yeah, I just want to give you a shout out because I think you deserve that, Damon.
Woo! Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Man, it's really hard to take a compliment, but thank you. I'm trying not to say anything self-deprecating. I received that, and I thank you so much. You both have been such fantastic guests. It's no surprise that you've been on, 4 times for Katie? Is this 5 times for you, Isaac?
It's my 5th time, yeah.
Man, 4 and 5. Thank you both so much. This is Podcast 616. You can still follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Podcast 616P3. There's still a few videos that I'll make because I've been sitting on some audio for some funny episodes. So I'm still gonna, now that I'm not doing the podcast, I'll have time to actually edit those and put those up. So there's some content still coming your way. If you want to follow me, Damon, you can follow me at Black Chandler. That Black is spelled BLK and Chandler is spelled like Chandler Bing. Shout out to producer Michael. Thank you so much for all your work that you've done on this podcast. I'm sure you would give this episode an A++. Hopefully Miami is treating you well. And yes, also shout out to my first producer. I truly forgot his name, but he seemed like he really hated doing this podcast. So I'm glad he left and found something better to do. But thank you to Press Play Productions for giving me this opportunity. Y'all are nuts, but I'm happy to have worked with you. And yeah, thanks you to everybody who has listened. Isaac Snyder, Shelby Quinn, you know who you are. But yeah, this has been Podcast 616. This is our last episode, but I've podcasted before. I'll probably podcast again. Much like a Marvel character, I'm never really fully gone. I will be back in some way later, but for now, I need to rest. So for one final time, please remember that with great power comes even greater responsibility. Goodbye, everyone.